hello, friends, and welcome to a new episode of Merging Minds, the podcast brought to you by BeautyWorks, the AI-powered TMS. Once again, excited, thrilled, and happy to bring you a new guest to the podcast. Today, I have with me and with us Mr. Dieter. Dieter, so kommst du aus Deutschland? Where are you from, Dieter? What's that? Like, where you? Who are you?
Javi. We talked about this earlier. I'm from a galaxy far, far away.
Really? Like, which planet's that? Where's that
A
planet,
long
man?
time ago.
No. It's incredible. Like, I'm excited.
I am.
Sorry, go.
I am presently based in a little bit north of Sydney, Australia, where I call my base of operations these days. But as you know, we bump into each other in all sorts of conferences and places. I'm on the road quite a bit as well, so I lay claim to California, Texas, and Canada, and a few other locations as home. The world is my home.
Yeah, but wait a second. Dieter is not a very Californian name. So tell us about the story of where Dieter comes from, the family.
Wow.
We need to know about those details, my friend.
Dieter is very much a German name. My parents were German migrants that immigrated to Canada in the 50s, I guess. Just after the war, they immigrated to Canada. And then they took a little trip down to California, and then I came along. And so I was born a native Californian. So I do lay claim as a native Californian with a very distinctly German name. So
yeah, and once more we meet another person who has the classical localization profile. Somebody who is born somewhere, who is living somewhere else, who creates a company or works for a company who is based in another place, right? And that's the beauty of the industry, right?
This is it, man. If you work in the loc industry, if you work in the language industry, you already have a little bit of Bedouin gypsy DNA in you, a need to travel and live in different interesting places and talk to different interesting people, and language is the bond that unites all of us together, right?
How many do you speak? Yeah, yes, indeed. How many languages do you speak?
Well, I speak a little bit of German. I lived in Montreal long enough to have a very butchered French, and of course I speak fluent Australian, Javi.
All right. Put another sleep in the Bobby.
All right. Yeah, nah.
I love it.
I can translate and interpret anything you need into Australian. You just let me know. Give me a heads up.
And like everybody, or I would say like 50-60% of the people in the industry, the localization industry, how did you stumble upon it? Because almost no one was born a translator or a localization person or whatever. At some point, we all stumble upon it somehow. It's actually funny because we're recording in early May 2025, and this week has been my 10th year anniversary in the industry. And I got a fun story to tell you. Like I was in my early 30s.
30 years? How many years?
10.
Oh, it's my 10th. 30. I'm like, wow, dude.
No, man. No, I'm only in my early 40s, man. No. It's my 10th anniversary.
Say how many years I've been in the industry, so.
Well, you're gonna tell us. You're gonna tell us about that. Yeah. Okay, I guess it's a super quick fun. Okay, it's a super fun one. It's still being talked about today. Like I was, what they call it, a geriatric millennial. I am a lawyer. I go to the work market in the worst time of the year for Spanish people my age. When this 2008 crisis happens, I am around the world for a few years. I ended up being a tour guide. I sent the CV to a tech company in Prague just because I wanted to keep partying in Prague because I love the city. Yeah. And I got a job in a small software company who is now my biggest competitor probably. And I entered the room of the CEO who's no longer there. And I asked him, hey, so this is a recruiting agency, right? Isn't it? And he goes like, no, we're a tech company. Okay, no worries. So let's talk. Pressure gone, fear gone. I got the job, and 10 years after I'm here, right? So that's how I stumbled upon the industry. How did you do it?
Life is what happens when you're making other plans. You know, Javi, I started actually in the film and media production world originally in the Bay Area. So after I graduated high school, I moved to San Francisco, San Jose, Bay Area, went to university there, did my undergraduate degree in film and television, worked a lot, shooting industrial training videos, and then I moved on to music videos, did a lot of concert footage and stuff like that, did some television, worked on a few, independent films here and there. That was the track that I was on. And from there, when you live in the Bay Area, you just naturally gravitate towards tech jobs as you do. And ended up doing a lot of production for companies that were, at the time, CD-ROMs were the big deal, right? Building interactive content for CD-ROMs. And so I ended up producing and working on a lot of CD-ROMs back in the day. And so I wanted to understand, how to create content for interactivity. And that led me to begin a master's program that time at SF State in instructional design and human cognition. So understanding how humans learn and adult learning theory and what tools and technologies that educators use to support and scaffold learning. So got into that. Then I found out about a exchange program to McGill University in Montreal, which is kind of hysterical since I am already a Canadian. I applied as an exchange student to Canada from the US. I was a Canadian exchange student to Canada. Didn't matter. McGill had a tremendous program in educational psychology. So I spent a few years there doing that, and then continued to work in the interactive learning and interactive media production. Did that while I lived in Montreal. And then somehow, working for a number of e-learning companies over the years following that, part of my responsibility would be to sim ship learning content and educational content and training and e-learning programs in multiple languages. So I started working with a lot of LSPs, a lot of translation companies, a lot of localization companies. It became part of, as a program manager for e-learning. So I had Microsoft as a client, and we would work on Office, whatever Office was being released, or SQL Server training, or what have you. And we'd have to create the learning, and then we'd have to localize it into 10, 12, eventually 20, 30 different languages. And then I started to network throughout the translation, language industry from there.
That's the most important part. And that's the part that we always, lots of the guests that come here, they've said, I wish I would have networked before. I'll be in a different place right now. And I'm glad you say it up front, that you've been able to network from the early stages, and that has helped you go to where you are. Because I don't know if we mentioned it in these very first minutes of our conversation, but you're the founder of Boostlingo, which is a pretty big sized translation company in the localization industry, right?
Software company. Yeah, so and my progression to that point where we created Boostlingo, initially I worked at a lot of companies you would know. I was at Lionbridge, I was at SDL, I worked for a few other companies, TTG, Alonix. Really enjoyed my time, working with these companies to understand and learn where the language industry was headed. One of the biggest challenges for me always was whenever I was managing interpreting projects, and every time there was no consistent tools being used. A lot of the products, if you were using an interpreting management system, it was owned by a company and you had to use their interpreters. And I just felt like there was a better way to do it, and a better way to democratize interpreting, so that LSPs everywhere, who probably had the same frustrations that I had in managing interpreting projects, could benefit by having some sort of platform to manage that component of their business. And then also I was very attracted to the mobile space and the portability of taking language wherever, on your iPad and on your iPhone, on your smart devices, on your tablets, what have you. Spent a lot of time in the healthcare space as well, seeing the challenges that physicians, GPs had getting language support. It just kind of all kind of gelled at some point when I was like, well, I'd done a startup before in the e-learning space, and I was approached by a good friend and colleague about what was going on in the language industry, and he asked me very point blank, hey Dietz, where do you think that this industry can be disrupted? And I said, well, the world doesn't need another TMS system at this moment. Like, I think there's a lot of great products out there right now, and it's a very competitive space. And there's some, there's
Tell
great
me.
products. Well, exactly. There's some great products. I don't think we need to build a TMS. If I had to place my bets, it would be some sort of. In my mind, I was thinking, this is around the time that Uber and Lyft were blowing up as well, and I thought to myself, Uber for language would be cool. Although, very quickly learned and knew that interpreting was not a gig economy. It's not a gig job. It's interpreting is hard, man.
Yeah.
You can't just get a driver's license to be an interpreter, right?
Yeah.
But
if I can,
some of the concepts are stuck, right? Like being able to go mobile and have one platform, one pane of glass to connect with your interpreters and build a platform to manage the end-to-end process of managing interpreting. So we pitched it. We built an MVP. I was in the Bay Area when we were first discussing this. I think it was like in 2014, maybe. Yeah, 2014. And I pitched it, and Sal, who also runs a very, very successful MSP company out of Austin, said, "Hey, well, if I build an MVP, can you come back and sell it?" I said, "Well, hell yeah, I can do that." Absolutely, as you say, right?
Yeah.
He called me like maybe a month, 2 months later, max, maybe like 2 months later. He's like, "Well, we've got a prototype, we've got an MVP. You need to come back out to the Bay Area and help us brand this and market this and build a team." I'm like, that was it. I was like, oh, okay.
Well, this is incredible, Dieter, because there's two, and I've talked to a few friends here and outside of the podcast, of course, about founding, right? Founding is one of the things that I've always been jealous of. Like, I've never, although I'm a free entity, let's call it that way, I've never been able to found something, right? To be a founder, to call myself, I'm a founder of this and that. Maybe one day, who knows? But there's some folks who come from a similar background to yours, who have had jobs, who have had positions, whatever, and they say hey, I'm tired of this. Fuck this thing. I'm gonna go solo, and they build successful companies. And there's others. I knew a couple of people, precisely in the industry, who never had a job. Man, it's just okay, let's get things done, and they build their own empire, so to say, right? So
I would say, Javi, honestly, I would say that makes you the perfect candidate to be a startup co-founder. Having no clue, pure adrenaline, pure inspiration, the motivation and the willingness, and
the sales spirit. Let's sell this thing, yeah.
It's important as well, because if you knew how much of a challenge it would be, you might not ever start it. But I can tell you that it is uniquely rewarding. And not every startup makes it, but you always have a level of optimism and belief in your product. And sometimes timing is very important too. Timing, the folks that surrounding yourself with really smart people.
I believe timing is related to what I always think is the most important thing, is opportunity creation. And I believe some of us are great at creating opportunities because of the way we are, our personality, the way we can relate to others, whatever, which at the end is what counts, in my humble opinion. And others have more difficulties to create those opportunities, and they have the ideas or whatever. So let me ask you, what advice would you give to somebody, for example, me, who has an idea and is scared of doing it?
Yeah. Number one, that fear, is a natural response. And if you didn't have a little bit of that fear, it probably would be a dangerous thing. Not being aware of things is also an advantage. It allows you to take some risks and to forge ahead with the dream, with the concept. Like, you just have to keep that vision and believe in it. You have to have some success along the way, and you have to have some validation along the way. You definitely need to make sure that there's product to market fit. You don't build something just because you can. There needs to be some sort of demand for it, some sort of need for it. It needs to solve a problem, business problem, whatever. I think the most important thing is you're going to spend a lot of time with the folks that will help you build this product in this company. Make sure you love those people, and you're not going to love them all the time. You're going to get into arguments, and it's inevitable. There'll be conflict and challenges, whatever. But at the core, surround yourself with people who are smart, energetic, creative, that are willing to, get into the foxholes, as they say, with you, because it's a journey. And anybody that was an overnight success took 10 years to get there, Javi. Like there's just there's no instant,
Yeah.
We're
and in those moments of desperation in which, and let me ask you, in those moments of, let's call it desperation, in which you are like, I got the team, I got the product, I've got the idea, but fuck, this is not gonna succeed. What do you think to overcome those thoughts? And what do you think to continue believing in what you do?
There's a certain amount of defiance you need to have in those moments. I remember very, very crisply, very clearly, a day, Brian Forrester, our CEO, I was sitting in our boardroom, and we just moved to brand new offices. I was feeling really good about it. Really tricked it out. In my other life, I was an interior decorator, I think, because I was all about putting up Boost brand everywhere, and I was so excited about our very first offices. But Brian walks in and he says, I don't know if we're going to make payroll this month. And it just hit me like, oh, he's like, I'm like, we can't. We had such an amazing team already in place, and we grew. First, there was 4 of us effectively. Then there were 7, and then there were, for the longest time, it was 11 of us. And then we got to about 26 employees, and that, it was amazing. And we were just, sleeping under our desks some days to get things out the door and get things done. So to the reality, and we raised a pretty good seed round, which, by the way, that's a whole other conversation. The raising of finance for a startup is an adventure in and of its own. But we were at that point where it's like, we're so close. We're so close. How do we? And there's no way. I don't want to let any of these people go. That I love these people. They've like hitched their wagon to this crazy idea. Like, we've got to make it work. And I without sounding all like hippy dippy do, which I do sometimes, I just felt like, if you can will it, you can. If you believe it, if you just put that thought of positivity out there, it might just push it along. And sure enough, we closed the business. We raised some more money. We found some additional investors. The money came in. Nobody was let go. And I'll tell you, Javi, from that group of 26 employees at that time, which I think was 2017, maybe 20 of them are still with us today. At least. Wow. Like, nice. We have had some serious, very, very low attrition at Boostlingo. People move away, or they go back to school, they do stuff. But honestly,
nice. That speaks wonderful about you and your leadership, man. That's incredible. That's incredible. But
it's the whole team. It's everybody. Like it's everybody like really believes in each other. We have, from the beginning, we've put programs into place. We used a product called Motivosity when we first started. Now we use a product called Lattice, and we give all of our employees an opportunity to provide support to each other, because we know, like, it's about the whole team. It's about all the boosties at Boostlingo being there for each other to get us to the next level. And at some point, you hit that inflection point, the curve on the hockey stick, and you're like, oh, maybe wow, like we don't have to stress so much about this. New challenges, new stresses, but are we going to be here tomorrow stress, a little bit of that goes away. And
we like, most of us, we see it when it's built, right? And we don't see all the effort put behind and all that stuff, right? But sometimes I ask myself, if I ever want to found something, it's like, will I do it for the money, for the freedom? Like, for the freedom to not have to respond to anybody else? What was your main motivation to do it back then? Or a combination could be, right? I mean, let's not be hypocrites here. We all want to live good, right? And we all want to.
Well, I know for me, I would say it was always the passion to create. I've always been fascinated by the use of technology to make life incrementally better for people. That I don't know how to package that as a fully formed thing, but where technology is used to lift the human experience, particularly through communication. So, originally I was into e-learning and learning how humans could use technology to increase their skills, upskill, and gain better understandings of topics, and grow using technology in support of that. And then, I always saw language as, language is the most important thing that unifies the planet, right? If you
Yes,
can
indeed.
communicate, you can succeed, right? You can't if you're a physician, if you can't communicate with the patient, you can't treat the patient. You need to be able to communicate, and being supporting language access and a multilingual path forward. I just see that as uniquely important to all of us, and I like to believe that all of us, Boostlingo for sure, all of us that are engaged in building language technology kind of have that deep down inside. It's like, yeah, we want to, do we want to be successful, profitable, brand that everybody knows and loves? 100%. I always want that. We used to joke back in the day. One of the first things I did, was super like aggro about it, Boostlingo, was t-shirts. I wanted everybody wearing Boostlingo t-shirts. And at one point, Brian turned to me and he said, "Dude, are we running a t-shirt company?" I'm like, maybe we are, maybe we aren't. Not for me to say. But I loved seeing people wearing the Boostlingo t-shirts at conferences or whatever, and just get the brand out.
Yeah. Especially in the starting moments where branding is the key part of growth. I see you because you're a salesperson, right? And I see how you see the importance of that stuff. Yeah.
And it's a pretty amazing book, Javi. I just want to throw out there. Al Ries and Laura Ries wrote a book many moons ago called "The 22 Immutable Laws of Marketing," and they did one about branding. Even though the technology has moved us even further now, the concepts in those books about brand and marketing still hold true today, and I really believe very firmly in that. The brand is super important. Being able to
our great common friend Renato mentioned it here the other time when we had the interview, because once I remember having a conversation with my dad about telling him hey, my dad has been in sales and in marketing all of his life, so we're doing things in a very different way. And I remember I told him that, and Renato came and told him, how could you tell that to your dad? Your dad must have thought the following: we are selling exactly the same way as we've been selling before the age of Christ, but we're just using different channels. That's all.
That's right.
So,
different channels. Different tools, channels. 100%.
Totally. And it's very interesting for me and to ask you as well, and for the friends following the podcast, because, dude, man, you build a successful technology company with almost 200 employees now. It must have been hard, right? And in your journey, I'm sure you were a different person back then. I mean, not a different person, but you were at a different moment of your personal evolution, right? And if you look back now, and I like to share this a lot
better now. I've got a little more riz, as the Gen Alpha, Gen Z says. I got more riz these days.
You're in your prime, they say. You're in your prime. But I'm
prime, baby.
You're in your prime, dude.
I'm totally Sigma. Anyways, right now my son's eyes are rolling back in the back of his head.
But listen, what I always want to ask sorry, just quickly, what I always want to ask about ask our guests is about the leadership journey, because it's incredible, and I'm always going to repeat it here on the podcast, but it's incredibly difficult to hear how a lot of people that you talk to on a daily basis, they hate their bosses, they hate their companies they work for, and they're just doing it for the money. And I am a warrior to make people, or to let people see that it's possible to work in a company where leadership is good and where leadership evolves in a positive way. So how has your leadership journey started, and how is it now? What are the differences? How were you when you started 10, 15 years ago, and now? What are some of the remarkable things that you've changed? You say, I'm proud of this, and I bring wealth. I don't only bring money, I bring wealth to those around me, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of it I've been very fortunate to have worked with and for a number of very inspirational leaders already. So there was whether I knew it or not, there was some mentorship in my professional trajectory. And there's many people I need to thank for the things that I've learned about being a good leader. And I want to emphasize how important mentorship is in the corporate environment. I think it's a critical thing to help nurture the folks that work with you, particularly those that are sort of starting in their careers and what have you. And again, I'm absolutely grateful for some of the amazing folks that have crossed my path in my career. And what I learned from a lot of that is that, number one, transparency and open communication are critical. You need to trust the people you work with. There's I think a lot of leaders, or a lot of, let's even call it leaders, a lot of folks start companies and they end up wearing all the hats, and they covet, or they hold on to things. And at some point, you have to trust and believe in your team, and let them take the things that they're working on forward, and believe and trust that they're going to do the best possible job there. And you don't need to micromanage that. You don't need to, you can check in and see how things are going. That's fine. But you need to believe in their capacity and capability and desire and passion to be excellent. As you get older, I think you can identify that trait, I think, a little more. I don't know. Like, I think we've been very, very fortunate at Boostlingo that we have so many super talented folks. I love them all. It's such an amazing, I look at where we are today, and we just had our annual Boostlingo team get together in Austin last week. And I love that because I don't get to see everybody or meet everybody all the time. And it's a great opportunity to reconnect with the mothership, as they say, and have conversations with a lot of these folks. And I really, really am impressed with the level of talent and ability. And I want to believe that because we started with that vibe to begin with, it perpetuates itself within the organization, right? It just grows organically. If everybody comes with a sense of responsibility and support for each other within an organization, it just naturally evolves that way.
Yeah. Well, keep it that way and keep evolving, my friend. It's. I think it's one of the, from my understanding, one of the key features of or skills of a leader is definitely flexibility. Flexibility has to be there. It's I think I've said here in the past, a very millennial thing, and it's a great skill for a leader, right? But like, I've been in situations as well, and not in the past, in which like micromanagement became a horrible thing, and you just mentioned it right now. Like, what kind of what would you do? What are you doing to avoid that micromanagement thing you just mentioned?
How to avoid it? Number one, again, it boils down to transparency and open communication with the folks that you work with. Like, you have to have rapport with the folks that you're working with. You have to understand, and sometimes, I mean, even I have, you have to pick your battles too in the organization. There's a million things that I would love Boostlingo to do today that I have to park because there are other internal priorities. And just because Dieter wants it doesn't mean Dieter's going to get it. I can continue to be passionate and put it as one of my pet projects, but I need to be sensitive to all the other important priorities that are happening at Boostlingo. And so I need to have those conversations with all the departments and understand, where that's going. When listen, the rest of the leadership team at Boostlingo, amazing. We have an amazing people team. Nina, Sandra, Brian is an amazing leader. Brian, our CEO, I literally want that guy to do some TEDx presentations this year. I keep telling him he's got to do it. He's fantastic at delivering the roadmap and the mission and the vision. He didn't come from the language space, and man, he's a language ninja now. And it's fantastic to see that. And of the three co-founders, we're all very supportive of each other, and we stay in our own swim lanes. I'm always interested in what Brian D'Agostino is doing, understanding how what the product team is working on.
But without getting you too deep into that too. Yeah. Makes sense.
And I'm trying to say I don't throw in hey Brian, what do you think about holographic communications.
I can imagine this must be a big challenge for founders as well, right? Like for especially for those who are in initial stages in which you have to wear multiple hats, and in growth, there's a certain level of you have to let go of things, and you gotta do it, right? So
letting go is
letting
important.
go.
There's some things, for example, at the beginning, we all wore different hats, right? I mean, you have to, and you have a certain focus, but for example, I'll give you a great example. One day I'm like, we gotta get our, regulatory compliance story and, together here. Who's gonna own this, right? And so I was standing, there talking about this, and then everybody takes one step back, and I'm like, oh, I guess it's me. It's like, and it's fine. And I got to tell you, I'm very passionate about data security and data privacy and regulatory compliance. However, it's not the most interesting topic to me, but I know it's important, and I like being able to speak about it somewhat. One of the best days of Boostlingo was the day that I turned to Noelle, and she was taking the compliance, and I threw it over the wall to her. I'm like, for you, you own compliance now,
Oh yeah.
But it doesn't mean I'm not interested in it. But it just feels good to go, oh, I can care about this, but I don't own it anymore. It's so good.
Well, my friend, I'm so happy to have had you here today. As I mentioned, the goal of Merging Minds by PureWorks is bringing the human leader in the localization industry to the public, right? Lots of times we follow people on LinkedIn, we work for people, or we just hear of someone who is like an incredible leader or a founder or somebody that has done something different, and you tend to idolize that person without knowing the real human. And I think today's conversation has brought our followers and our friends the real Dieter, the real human. Thanks for being here.
This is me. This is the real Dieter. I want to say, big fan of BureauWorks, Javi. We see each other frequently, and you are going to be on Boostcast very soon.
I went just you know where to find me.
Where to find you?
We have to find the proper time, because with the time difference, that's a complicated thing. But I'm always here, my friend.
We will sort it out. I look forward to reconnecting with you at some future conference. Thank you so much.
You, my friend. Thank you. And to all of you listening, thank you so much. And until the next episode of Merging Minds at PureWorks. Bye.